They sold us an illusion that power was volume, that it was found in fists flying, voices yelling, adrenaline flaring, that domination was about motion, not control, that the one who moved first, who spoke loudest, who chased hardest, was the one who won. But if you've been through the shadows, if you've been burned, betrayed, or broken, you know that's not how it works. Because true power, the kind that scares the weak and humbles the proud, is found in what you don't do. It's found in the silence you keep instead of speaking out of pride. It's found in the battles you walk away from, not out of fear, but because they don't deserve your fire. It's found in the temptation you deny, not because you don't feel it, but because you're bigger than it. This is temperance. And temperance is not weakness. It is not submission. It is not passivity. It is the highest form of self-command. It is the measure of the one who has become dangerous and doesn't need to prove it. The delusion of indulgence. Unmasked. Look around you. The world is dripping with sweet poison, marketed as pleasure, branded as freedom. Do what you want, they say. Follow your heart. Live for the moment. It sounds innocent, empowering even, but it's the most dangerous lie you've ever swallowed. Because when everyone's a slave to their next craving, to their next like, to their next click, who's really free? They tell you freedom is eating whatever you want, whenever you want. That freedom is saying whatever explodes out of your mouth, without consequence. That freedom is indulging every emotion, every appetite, every impulse that flickers through your nervous system. But that isn't freedom. That's the cage made of pleasure. And dopamine is the drug used to keep you quiet inside it. The worst prison isn't the one with locked bars. It's the one you decorate with comfort, convenience, and short-term highs. It's the one you defend because it feels good. And when you wake up, you won't even know how you became weak. You'll just know you're empty, out of control, chained to urges that don't care who they destroy. You thought you were living free, but you were being puppeteered by appetite. They don't need to control you if they can program your cravings. They don't need a leash if they've already hijacked your perception of freedom. The worst part? You built the prison yourself. Every moment you chose ease over effort. Every time you said just this once to instant gratification. Every time you avoided pain by reaching for pleasure. You trained yourself to believe that comfort was the goal. And now, you're weak. Not because life broke you, but because you never learned how to say no to yourself. So I ask you again, if you can't say no to yourself, then who the hell is running your life? Temperance is the rebellion. It's the radical act of defiance in a world that wants you docile, reactive, and dependent. It's the art of sitting in front of the flame and not reaching into it, to want something deeply and still walk away, to feel the fire in your chest and choose stillness instead. Temperance says, I know what I want, but I won't take it until I've earned it, until I'm ready to carry its weight, until it no longer owns me. Because if your desires control you, you don't own them. They own you. And anything that owns you can break you. Understand this. Most people will never grasp this truth. Because temperance requires pain. And this generation fears pain more than failure, more than regret, more than being average for the rest of their lives. But pain is not your enemy. Pain is the price of entry. It's the gatekeeper of transformation. You want wisdom? Suffer and wait. You want power? Starve the impulse until it bends to your will. You want legacy? Bleed now. Reap later. The pain of restraint is temporary, but the pain of indulgence lasts forever, because it leaves you numb, hollow, and enslaved to the very thing you thought was liberating you. The delusion is deep. They'll keep feeding it to you with songs, slogans, and screens. They'll glamorize the reckless. They'll celebrate the unfiltered. They'll idolize the impulsive. But understand, this world doesn't reward you for being free. It rewards you for being predictable, controllable, marketable, and indulgence makes you all of those things. But not you. Not anymore. You're not here to be ruled by appetite. You're not here to sacrifice your destiny for dopamine. You're here to walk the road few can handle. The one that makes you sharp, dangerous, disciplined. You're here to master the hunger, not be consumed by it. Because when the world collapses under its own chaos, it won't be the loud or the wild who survive. It will be the tempered, the composed, the rare few who chose pain when everyone else chose pleasure. And that's what makes us different. They told you the fight was out there, against your enemies, against critics, against doubters and haters and circumstances. But no, the real war is not on the battlefield. It's not in the courtroom or the boardroom. It's not in the gym, the relationship, or the bank account. The real war is in your mind, and it rages in silence. Every day, every hour, every time you're alone and no one's watching. This is the war between two versions of you. One, wild, hungry, impulsive, screaming for satisfaction. The other, watchful, disciplined, brutal in restraint, whispering, "Not yet." And you know this war. You feel it every time you're pulled between comfort and commitment, ease and excellence, reaction and restraint. That voice, the first one, it whispers in moments of weakness. You deserve it. You've earned a break. Just this once. Nobody will know. It laces its poison with soft language. It pretends to be your friend. It offers relief, but never peace. It offers pleasure, but always with chains. And then there's the other voice. Colder, quieter, but stronger. Wait. Watch. Hold the line. This pain will pass. But what you become if you break, that will stay. And in that moment, that microsecond of decision, you are at war. Not with the world, not with your past, but with yourself. And that moment is where futures are made or destroyed. Most people never win that battle because most people never train for it. They chase dopamine, not discipline. They mistake feeling for direction. They mistake impulse for intuition. So they obey the first voice. They give in. And the result? The undisciplined become addicts, addicted to comfort, to sugar, to lust, to validation. They are ruled by the moment and forever stuck in it. The impulsive become destroyers. They ruin relationships, opportunities, and reputations, not because they're evil, but because they never learn to pause before pulling the trigger. The arrogant become exiles, too proud to be corrected, too reactive to be trusted, too emotional to lead, and eventually pushed out by the consequences they called unfair. But there's another path, the one few take, the path of temperance, and the one who chooses it becomes unshakable. They learn to hear the storm without becoming it. They feel the chaos, but never hand it the wheel. They taste temptation, but never let it become their master. When insulted, they don't flinch, because ego no longer rules their reactions. They see through the bait. When provoked, They don't chase, because they understand that every enemy who tries to pull you out of character is trying to steal your power. And when offered pleasure, they don't bow, because they've seen how many warriors have been defeated not by pain, but by sweetness they weren't ready for. They have one question that silences all noise. Does this serve the mission? Because that's the difference. Those who live by emotion are tossed like waves in a storm, but those who live by purpose become the storm. They serve vision. They serve something higher than their feelings, urges, or moods. They serve clarity, and clarity doesn't scream. It guides. This is how empires are built, not by chasing every impulse, but by submitting to the vision. And the ones who live like this, they can't be manipulated. They can't be lured. They can't be baited into destruction. Why? Because they've already fought the war within and won. They've starved the beast of impulse. They've silenced the screaming child within. They've trained themselves to feel everything and still choose the mission. If you understand this, you're already ahead. But if you live like most, you'll keep losing this silent war. You'll sabotage progress with just one more. You'll destroy trust with one unfiltered outburst. You'll derail your own destiny with a moment of weakness you call freedom. Don't you see? This war isn't one you win once. It's daily, hourly, relentless. But every victory over self is another brick laid in the foundation of the version of you that nothing can shake. You don't become unstoppable by avoiding temptation. You become unstoppable by staring it in the face and saying, "You're not stronger than me." That's the real badge of honor. That's what separates warriors from the masses. Not their sword, not their fame, not even their skill. Their discipline in the invisible war. So the next time those two voices collide in your mind, ask yourself this: who do I serve? My cravings or my calling? Because that choice, that tiny, invisible choice, is the seed of your future. And the one who serves purpose cannot be broken by impulse. Not now, not ever, because they've already faced their greatest enemy and mastered it. You are the battlefield. You are the weapon. You are the gatekeeper. You are the war. Win it, and you'll never bow to anyone or anything again. Nature obeys this law, and she punishes the foolish. You think this is just your struggle? No. Temperance is not some human invention. It's not some moral suggestion passed down by monks and philosophers. It is law. Universal. Inescapable. Enforced through everything that breathes, grows, strikes, and survives. Look deeper. Even nature herself, untamed, ungoverned, and raw, obeys temperance. Because if she didn't, she would burn herself to ash, flood herself into extinction, roar herself into silence. The lion doesn't chase every movement in the grass. It doesn't waste breath roaring at leaves or charging blindly into the wind. It waits, still, perfectly coiled, not because it's afraid, but because it's wise. It knows every step matters. Every ounce of energy counts. It studies before it strikes. It saves its fire for when it matters most. Because in the wild, wasted energy is death. And in life, so is wasted emotion. Wasted reaction, wasted force. The lion has learned what most humans have not. You don't win by attacking everything that moves. You win by waiting and unleashing hell when the odds are right. The seed, it doesn't erupt the moment it's buried. It doesn't scream to be seen. It disappears into silence, pressure, and isolation. It breaks open beneath the soil, surrounded by darkness, long before anyone above even knows it's alive. It waits. It suffers. It obeys the rhythm of time. Why? Because nature knows something most people don't. Growth that comes too fast is fragile, and power without depth collapses. If you want roots that can hold you through storms, you must first surrender to stillness. The seed never resents the darkness. It uses it. It turns pain into potential. It turns pressure into direction. So ask yourself, are you patient enough to grow when nobody is watching? Or are you too obsessed with the spotlight to develop strength in the shadows? And the storm? Ah, yes, the storm. It doesn't erupt at every breeze. It doesn't flash lightning because it's bored. It builds in silence. It gathers energy. It waits until the time is perfect. And when it comes, it levels mountains. It redraws landscapes. It reminds the world that true power doesn't need to announce itself. It only needs one moment of release. Now compare that to how most people live. They burst with every frustration. They collapse at every inconvenience. They burn out by noon chasing things that don't matter. They live like scattered sparks. But sparks don't build legacies. Sparks don't shake kingdoms. Storms do. This is not weakness. This is not passivity. This is not surrender. This is discipline, written into the fabric of existence. The lion, the seed, the storm. They don't act on impulse. They don't chase without aim. They don't waste their essence on noise. They wait. They sharpen. They prepare. And when the moment comes, they strike with divine precision. So here's the question that cuts through all the noise. Are you living like the storm? Or are you just chasing lightning bolts without a plan? Are you throwing your power at anything that moves, hoping something sticks? Or are you becoming something so potent, so surgical, so controlled, that when you do move, everything around you changes? Most are addicted to movement. They confuse chaos with action. They confuse busyness with impact. But nature doesn't. Nature knows. True power is stored, not scattered. It's not about how loud you are. It's about how lethal you become in silence. So if you want to become unstoppable, stop trying to be seen so fast. Be the lion that waits. Be the seed that breaks in the dark. Be the storm that builds in silence. Temperance is not a luxury. It's not optional. It's not soft. It's nature's law. And if you disobey it, you break yourself before the world ever gets the chance. Learn from the earth. Obey the rhythm. Respect the delay. Because when you finally move, make sure it's the kind of movement that makes the whole world step back and say, that wasn't luck. That was power. Perfectly restrained until it wasn't. They want you impulsive because it makes you easy to control. Make no mistake, your lack of temperance is not just a personal weakness. It's profitable. It's strategic. It's engineered. You think the system wants you disciplined, focused, patient? No. The system wants you impulsive. Because impulsive people buy without thinking. They argue without facts. They react without clarity. They consume endlessly because they're chasing something they can never catch. Companies want you addicted, not satisfied, not healthy, not free. Addicted. Addicted to sugar, to dopamine, to screens, to convenience, to anything that keeps you numb, distracted, and spending. You think you're choosing that next scroll, that next snack, that next surge of digital approval? You're not. You've been programmed to crave it. And the deeper your cravings run, the easier you are to manipulate. They don't need to chain your body when they already own your nervous system. Governments want you reactive. Because a calm, tempered mind is dangerous to those in power. It asks questions. It waits. It sees through illusions. But a reactive mind? That mind can be fed fear. It can be stirred with outrage. It can be distracted with bread and circuses, while the world burns behind the curtain. Your attention isn't just a resource. It's a weapon. And if they can hijack it, they can turn you against yourself, your people, your truth, and you'll thank them for it. Trolls want you triggered because emotional reactions give them control. Every time you lash out, every time you justify yourself to someone who isn't listening, you bleed energy. You give your power to someone who thrives off your instability. And you think you've won something, when all you did was lose your center. The powerful want you overstimulated and under-disciplined. They want you emotionally bloated and spiritually starved. They want you so caught in daily chaos that you never stop to see the cage you're living in. They fear those who pause. They fear those who observe. They fear those who can walk through hellfire and not make a sound. Because those people, those rare tempered ones, cannot be bought, baited, or bent. So when you choose temperance, when you say no to the endless distractions, when you stop chasing every appetite, every comment, every feeling, you become a threat. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer programmable. You become sovereign. Temperance is rebellion. Not loud, not dramatic, not explosive. Silent, precise, ruthless. It's the quiet uprising of the few who refuse to be reduced to animals chasing pleasure. It's the armor of those who refuse to be emotionally hijacked. It's the sword of those who delay gratification long enough to build empires while others chase crumbs. You want to be dangerous? Control your appetites. Because the one who can starve the craving owns the craving. The one who can walk away from the urge controls the urge. And the one who can say no to what everyone else says yes to, that one is untouchable. You're not a slave. You're a weapon, waiting to be forged. Listen closely. You've been made to believe you're just a body, just a bundle of impulses, just another face in the feed, a mind to program, a set of habits to exploit, a consumer, a follower, a reactor. But that is the lie. You are not just a body. You are not just a mind. You are not here to obey every urge or emotion that passes through you. You are something far more dangerous. A vessel of intention, a carrier of potential power, a being that can choose its direction, shape its reality, refuse its conditioning. And that, right there, is what separates the enslaved from the weaponized. Temperance sharpens that vessel. It's the grindstone for your instincts, the fire that burns off what's weak, the chisel that breaks away distraction, compulsion, emotion, until all that's left is precision. Temperance doesn't kill your power. It concentrates it. It turns chaos into clarity, impulse into mastery, fury into focus. The more you resist what pulls you down, the more you rise. The more you delay the strike, the more deadly it becomes when you choose to deliver it. That's what temperance does. It makes you a walking paradox, calm but lethal, patient but relentless, quiet but unforgettable. They won't understand you at first, because the world only respects noise. They only recognize power when it's loud, dramatic, theatrical. So when you're still, when you wait, when you walk away from chaos instead of diving into it, they'll call you soft. They'll call you afraid. They'll say you're missing out. Let them talk. Because while they burn themselves out trying to be seen, you'll be building something they can't see coming. Let them underestimate you. Let them laugh. Let them mistake your silence for weakness. You'll win. Not because you reacted, but because you didn't. You'll win because you understood the game wasn't about moving first. It was about moving right. You'll win because while they scattered their energy, you conserved yours. They chased dopamine, clout, and applause. They needed to be seen, heard, validated, constantly. But you didn't. You were focused. You stayed in the shadows, crafting strength in silence. You held your words. You held your fire. And when the time came, you released both with surgical accuracy. You didn't burn everything around you in desperation for attention. You studied. You refined. You recalibrated your mind, rewired your soul, and trained your instincts like a blade. You didn't indulge. You denied yourself, not out of weakness, but out of purpose. While they feasted on every craving, you fasted. While they chased every thrill, you hunted truth. While they slept, you stayed up sharpening the edge of your destiny. Temperance taught you to wait when others rushed, to withhold when others spilled, to rise only when the earth was ready to feel your footsteps. You didn't just gain control, you became control. And that is the rarest form of power there is. You are not a slave to the system. You are not a slave to your past. You are not a slave to lust, to anger, to hunger, or to validation. You are not the addict. You are not the beggar. You are not the fool screaming for approval in a burning room. You are the one who walks out of that room untouched, because you built fire inside yourself that didn't need to be seen to exist. You are a weapon, but not one flailing in every direction. You are a weapon with aim, with discipline, with higher purpose. Your power is not for show. It is not for applause. It is not for pride. Your power is for war, and you choose when the war begins. Not when your ego demands it, not when the crowd screams for it, but when your mission calls for it. So if you feel alone in this path, good. Weapons aren't forged in crowds. They're forged in fire, in pressure, in silence, in temperance. Let the world think you're passive. Let them forget your name. Just remember, when chaos finally comes, when the noise reaches its peak, when the storm blinds every fool who ran toward it, you will still be standing, still composed, still ready. And then you move, one strike, and the world remembers the name they once laughed at, because you weren't just quiet. You were becoming something fatal. You were becoming something untouchable. You were becoming you. Temperance is the final form of power. Precision over chaos. At the highest level, everything changes. When you first begin the journey, you think power is motion. You think it's how fast you can run, how hard you can hit, how loud you can scream. You mistake noise for strength, volume for confidence, speed for dominance. But those are the illusions of the lower tier. That's the battlefield of the unsharpened. Up here, at the top, the rules are different. Up here, power becomes invisible. It's no longer about how loud you are. It's about how little you need to say. Because the warrior who truly understands themselves no longer needs to prove anything. They don't speak to validate. They don't argue for dominance. Their presence does the talking. Their silence terrifies. One look, one pause, one controlled breath, and the room shifts. Because when a person doesn't react, when they don't flinch, when they don't chase approval or bite at bait, everyone around them suddenly realizes they don't play the same game anymore. It's no longer about how fast you act. It's about how precise your actions are. Fools move first. They strike wildly, desperately, hoping one hit lands. They act without aim and exhaust themselves in the chaos they create. But the master waits, listens, watches. They move once, and it's enough. Because that one move was crafted, measured, and lethal. That's the edge of temperance. You are no longer trying to win through effort alone. You win through alignment, through timing, through refined control. Temperance makes you surgical. It's the difference between a wild swing and a sniper's bullet, between a tantrum and a kill shot. Every move you make cuts deeper, because it's not random, it's earned. Every word you speak lands heavier, because it's not spoken from impulse, it's spoken from clarity. Every decision you make echoes longer, because it wasn't rushed. It was born in stillness, refined in silence, and executed with deadly intent. This is no longer brute strength. This is strategic force, the kind that doesn't need to scream to be felt. Because in the end, it's not the blade that kills. It's the wielder who knows exactly when to strike and when not to. The blade is just metal. The swing is just motion. But the mind behind it, the one who sees the terrain, the one who waits for the exact moment when doubt creeps in, when the enemy overextends, when the opening reveals itself, that mind wins battles before the sword ever leaves the sheath. That's what separates the warrior from the berserker. The berserker is dangerous, yes, but reckless, loud, predictable. They burn fast, they charge with fury, and they often die screaming because they never learn to pause. The warrior, they are silent, deliberate, measured. They don't chase every fight. They don't waste strikes proving their strength. They don't need to destroy to feel alive. They know their value, and that makes them terrifying. That's what separates the general from the grunt. The grunt takes orders, reacts, charges forward without knowing why. They're useful, but expendable. Their power lies in obedience, not in understanding. But the general sees the whole field, moves the pieces, holds the line until the exact moment when motion becomes victory. Temperance gives the general clarity, and clarity leads to conquest. That's what separates the king from the pawn. The pawn can only move forward. It is bound by impulse and direction. It serves a system it cannot see beyond. But the king moves strategically. The king knows the board. The king holds back, not out of weakness, but because every move carries weight. One mistake could end everything. So every decision is sacred. Every act is intentional. This is how legacies are built, not by rushing, but by reigning in the chaos within. You want real power? Don't just build your strength. Restrain it. Don't just sharpen your blade. Learn when to put it down. Don't just chase success. Learn to move only when the timing makes your movement unquestionable. That is the final form of power. Not noise, not aggression, not dominance by volume, but temperance. It is the unseen edge, the shadow discipline, the silent proof that you've evolved beyond reaction. You no longer chase control. You are control. And when that becomes true, there is no enemy, no storm, no system that can touch you. A final warning and an invitation. This is the point where most people turn back. Why? Because temperance doesn't feel good at first. It's not seductive. It doesn't stroke your ego or reward your cravings. It demands stillness and chaos, silence and noise, restraint, In a world that glorifies excess, it feels like weakness, because you've been taught that strength means force, that leadership means being the loudest, that success means chasing every opportunity, every impulse, every moment. But let's test that lie. If you still think temperance is weakness, ask yourself this: why do the most disciplined individuals always rise? Not the loudest, not the flashiest, not the ones with temporary momentum. The disciplined, the ones who show up even when no one claps, the ones who train in the dark when everyone else is distracted, the ones who don't let their mood dictate their moves. They rise, not because life made it easy for them, but because they mastered themselves first. Why do those who delay gratification always build legacies? Because they plant what others consume. They fast when others feast. They build when others rest. They walk away from easy gains in order to earn unbreakable ground. They understand something most people never grasp. What you sacrifice now becomes what others envy later. The impatient chase the high. The tempered build the throne. Why do those who walk through fire without reacting always outlast the ones who scream? Because screaming wastes breath. Reacting wastes energy. Impulse wastes legacy. But stillness? Stillness becomes the storm's worst enemy. Stillness doesn't flinch. It doesn't beg. It doesn't panic. Stillness studies. It watches everything. It listens for weakness. It knows that pain is part of the process, but panic is optional. And when the fire burns hottest, the one who stays centered becomes untouchable. Because temperance is the skill of gods disguised as mortals. It is divine control clothed in skin. It is restraint that doesn't suppress. It commands. It is a silent force that breaks systems without raising its voice. Temperance doesn't brag. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It doesn't need applause, because it knows. When the moment comes, when the fools have worn themselves out, when the chaos devours itself, when the dust settles, it will be the one who stood still in the storm who now stands above it. And that brings us here, to this moment, to your crossroad. So here's your choice. Make it consciously. Be loud. Be impulsive. Be predictable. Be the person who jumps at every offer, flinches at every challenge, breaks under pressure, and gets baited into every war they're invited to. Or be the anomaly. Be the silence that unnerves. Be the patience that poisons the enemy's confidence. Be the force they can't see until it's already too late. Be still. Be composed. Be the one they can't figure out until it's over. And when it is, you'll be the only one still standing. Not because you were the strongest, not because you were the most talented, but because you were the most tempered. This is your final warning. The world will keep pulling you toward the noise, toward distraction, toward impulse, toward slavery disguised as freedom. They will bait you with comfort. They will test you with chaos. They will whisper to your pride and scream at your fear. And if you break, they own you. But if you stay centered, if you delay the gratification, if you master your urges and stop answering every emotional knock at your door, you don't just win battles, you own the battlefield. And now, the invitation. Join us. We are the quiet ones, the patient ones, the ones who train in silence and strike with precision. We are the warriors forged by choice, not by chance. We do not scream. We do not chase. We do not beg. We build. We sharpen. We endure. And when the time comes, we move once, and the world shifts. If you're ready to stop being the slave of your impulses and start becoming the weapon your future demands, then walk with us. Let it be known, temperance is not weakness, it is warfare. A war not waged against the world, but against the self, the impulses that seek to sabotage you, the distractions designed to enslave you, the chaos that whispers for your attention, and the ego that demands to be fed. You've seen the battlefield. You now know where the real fight takes place. It begins with the delusion of indulgence, where you were sold a lie that pleasure is freedom. But you now know. Freedom is the ability to say no when everything inside you screams yes. You've looked into the war within, the invisible conflict where two voices collide, the voice of craving and the voice of control. And now, you've chosen to serve purpose over impulse. You've learned from nature that even lions wait, storms build, and seeds suffer in silence. That nothing powerful rushes. That the most destructive force is often the one that waits the longest to be released. You face the truth that they want you impulsive, because a reactive soul is a profitable one. But you've stepped away from that trap. You've reclaimed your will, your attention, your sovereignty. And with that, you've become dangerous. You've accepted that you are not a slave. You are a weapon, a vessel of intention, a mind forged by fire, a spirit that cannot be baited, bought, or broken. You don't move to be seen. You move to conquer. And above all, you've realized that temperance is the final form of power. Not in chaos, not in noise, but in calculated stillness, lethal restraint, mastery over every strike, because precision is the signature of the elite. So now the path stands before you. You can return to noise, to weakness, to indulgence. Or you can walk the road few dare to tread, the tempered path, the path of the lion, the storm, the general, the path of those who rise in silence and strike when it matters most. And if you walk it, know this: you will be misunderstood. You will be underestimated. You will be mocked. But you will outlast them all. Because while they burn fast and fall loudly, you endure quietly. You build ruthlessly. You master completely. Welcome back, GrimFace Warrior. And if this is your first time hearing the call, remember this: stay sharp, stay focused, stay tempered. The world fears rage, but it trembles before restraint. We are GrimFace,